Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Ari Tuckman, and welcome back to the ninth annual Online ADHD Awareness Expo. I'm going to be talking today about the top 3 ways to escape the chase dynamic in relationships, which is common in lots of relationships, but especially common when somebody in the relationship has ADHD. But before we get going, I just want to remind everybody to stop by the online exhibit hall and to sign up for the free virtual goodie bag, which is going to have all sorts of good content and other things from the various ADHD Awareness Expo speakers and sponsors. So definitely lots of good stuff in there to check out. So I'm a psychologist. I specialize in ADHD. I've written a few books on ADHD. I present all over the place. I have a podcast. I'm the current co-chair for the CHAD ADHD conference, along with ADA and ACO. I've been involved with ADHD for a long time. Love this stuff. This is what I do. So let's let's talk about ADHD and relationships. This is a thing that's going to be a surprise to nobody who's actually listening to this, which is that the unreliability associated with ADHD, especially if it's not diagnosed and it's not treated and well managed, it impacts the security that both partners feel in the relationship. We look to our partners, we look at their actions in order to sort of trust what they say and have faith in what they will do or what they have done. But we also look at our own actions to have that same sense of trust and faith and reliability. And unfortunately, ADHD, again, especially if untreated, makes it harder for the partner with ADHD to feel like they're effective in being the kind of partner they want to be. But it also makes it harder for the non-ADHD partner to feel secure in the relationship. Are you going to do the things that I need you to do, that I want you to do? So there's a super easy trap for couples to fall into where the person with ADHD kind of becomes a scapegoat and the cause for all of the non-ADHD partners' anxieties, uncertainties, doubts, worries, etc. This is unfortunately not a good time for anybody. Like, nobody is benefiting from this. Nobody is enjoying it. And, that kind of stereotypical dynamic of the underfunctioner and the overfunctioner just creates a sort of inevitable anger, nagging, avoidance, general frustration, feeling of powerlessness, not feeling like you're on the same team, feeling like everything is kind of tug of war and zero sum. And it's not the sort of big existential issues, but it's the little stuff like who's cleaning up the kitchen, who's picking up the kids, who's remembering to get milk at the supermarket. It's that daily little grind. So it's not like the big traumatic event, it's that sort of death by a thousand cuts kind of a scenario. And this is the battlefield in which that sort of tug of war plays out. So certainly ADHD is an obvious contributor in this, but it's not the only thing that's going on. Like, no relationship is so simple that there's only one thing going on. And the non-ADHD partner still has their half of the relationship to address and to think about and to perhaps do something different with. So what do we do about this? How do we get out of this unhappy dynamic that's so easy to fall into? Well, number one, recognize that you're reacting to each other. That what each of you does drives what the other person does. So, kind of like the obvious stereotypical thing here is the ADHD behavior makes the non ADHD partner feel out of control. How can I relax when I don't have faith that you actually paid the bills the way you said you're gonna? But on the flip side of that, the non-ADHD partner is kind of clamping down or over controlling, micromanaging, monitoring, criticizing, makes the partner with ADHD feel kind of devalued or like they're not an equal contributor, like they're not an equal adult in the relationship. So it makes sense. Like, you can easily understand why the partner with ADHD feels the way they do, why the partner without ADHD feels what they do. And each of them, again, is driving what the other is doing. But unfortunately, the more you pull in these tug of wars, the more you sort of evoke the opposite behavior in the other person. And this is how couples sort of get bogged down. And I see this in my office all day long. So one of the ways then of addressing this is, first of all, to address the ADHD. If this is a part of what's going on, you got to get on it. And obviously, I'm preaching to the choir because you're here at the expo. So, you're educating yourself, you're interested, you're learning, but hopefully, both you and your partner are educating yourself or learning or working together on this to make ADHD less of a thing in your lives. Now, idea number two of how to sort of break this chase dynamic is distinguish between preferences and limits. Now, this is definitely not just an ADHD relationships kind of a thing. This is an everybody in the world kind of a thing. Um, but I think it can especially get exacerbated in a relationship where one person has ADHD. So, on the one hand, like we all have preferences. We have some things we like more, other things we like less. Some things we value more highly or prioritize, other things that we kind of don't really care that much about. And it's based on what our personality is, it's based on our experience, it's based on our kind of like biological temperament, it comes from lots of places. But the thing about it is, these preferences are not factual, no matter how kind of moralistic we like to get about it. So, for example, like we'll go with an obvious cliche: how neat should the house be? And for some people, it should look like, I don't know, Martha Stewart is showing up with a photo, crew any minute now to do the, next cover set of, the upcoming issue of the magazine. And for other people, it should look barely better than, a frat house that hasn't been cleaned in 4 years. I don't know. Like everybody has their preference, and nothing is right or wrong about it. Um, but it can feel like, no, my preference is right. And check this out. I'm going to make an argument for why it's more right than your way. But at the end of the day, they really are just preferences. Now, by contrast, there are things called limits, which are preferences that we feel like we really can't flex on without selling out our integrity. So, for example, limit might be, you know what? In good conscience, I cannot leave our kids home alone at this age that they are. Like, that's just not a thing that I'm comfortable doing. Um, or by contrast, you know, at this point, I don't feel like, I don't know, we need to monitor every moment of our child's cell phone use. Maybe that's just a thing of like, you know what, I want her to feel like she has some autonomy, some flexibility, that she can sort of make her own fate in the world or something. So a limit is a much harder kind of a preference where we don't feel like we can be flexible, because if we're flexible, it's going to spill out in other ways that are not good for us, not good for our partner, not good for other people. So limits are the preferences that we choose to sort of hold the line. But the thing of it is, you got to choose, and not everything can be a limit. Some preferences need to be flexible. Some preferences we need to be able to negotiate and maybe even give up. We don't get everything we want in life. So, part of a happy relationship involves being clear for yourself first. What is most important to me? What are the limits? What are the drop deads? What are the things that like I am not going to flex on? And therefore, what are the things that maybe, I guess, perhaps if I have to, I will flex on? Um, but if you know that for yourself and your partner knows that for themselves, then you're in a much better place to actually have a really productive conversation and negotiation about what are we doing here? What are our goals and what are our methods for getting there? What is okay? What's not okay? And again, every couple has to sort this stuff out. ADHD just happens to add, a couple extra wrinkles, or really, actually, it just exacerbates the universals that are there in every other couple as well. So to really sort of think about what your values and priorities are, I think is really important when it comes to actually getting more of what it is that you want. So our third one then, number three, give and take reminders well. So, given the fact that ADHD impacts executive functioning, it impacts how someone is able to, I don't know, close the gap between intentions and actions. Given the fact that partners have different preferences, and again, that's okay. Uh, Giving reminders, creating some structure can be really helpful when it comes to maintaining agreement. So, Often it's the non-ADHD partner who will give more of those reminders, perhaps, but not only. Hopefully that goes back the other way a bit as well. But it's a matter of being selective about what reminders are given. It's a matter of having negotiated out what are our goals that we're working towards and what are acceptable ways to get there. But the reminders need to be given nicely or respectfully, and they also need to be taken respectfully. Or however good the agreement is when you made it, things are going to fall apart in the implementation. So, a couple ways to do that. Number one, don't let resentment build so that you cannot give a friendly reminder. Like if the resentment builds and builds and builds because you haven't said anything or you haven't gone back to the drawing board to say, you know what, time out, this isn't working. Like we gotta step back and figure out something else. It's a setup to give the reminder angrily. And if you give a reminder angrily, you cannot expect your partner to take it well. Then the other side of this is if you do give a reminder and your partner sort of complies and is decent about it, show a little appreciation. Don't take it as a given that, of course, this is a thing that you want to do, especially if you know it's a thing that really is much more for your preference and not as much for your partner's preference. If they're doing you a solid on this, show some appreciation for it. Now, for the partner who has ADHD, you know, don't cop out. Don't agree in the moment and then not follow through when the rubber hits the road. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't convince yourself that like it's fine, I'll just do it later, or I don't have to do that now. I don't have to write it down. I'll just remember it. You know, do that harder work to do the better thing in the moment. Because when we cop out in the moment, we set ourselves up in the crosshairs. And that's a setup to get defensive, to get angry, to not respond well. So make an active choice to do this thing because you agreed that you would. So, at the end of the day, good behavior evokes good behavior in the same way that bad behavior evokes bad behavior, and that each partner needs to do their part to behave with integrity and to draw out the best behavior from their partner. So, that's super easy to say. And the big challenge is in the heat of the moment to do that better thing, to respond in that better way, even if your partner isn't responding in the best way themselves. Especially important in those moments. Like somebody's got to rescue the situation. It might as well be you. If it's not going to be them, it might as well be you. So, um, so when you put it all together, I sort of live by this adage. I preach this adage to my clients all day that a good relationship pushes you to become a better person. When one partner in the relationship has ADHD, it adds certain kinds of struggles more so than others, but it's still part of that same process of both of you working to make a good relationship, both of you working to become a better person yourself, and both of you working to kind of challenge your partner to also become a better person. And certainly all this good stuff in the ADHD Expo, all the good stuff that Chad and everybody else in the world of ADHD is doing is all going to be helpful in becoming that better person and in making a better relationship for yourself and your partner. So thank you for taking some time to watch this. Check out everybody else. Lots of great people involved in this expo. If you want more information about me, about my books, upcoming presentations, my podcast, et cetera, check out adultadhdbook.com and you'll find everything there. And finally, once again, remember to stop by the online exhibit hall and sign up for the free virtual goodie bag if you haven't done it yet, because there's lots of good stuff, lots of more awesome content coming your way. Thanks a lot.